Hello, everyone in XRP Army land. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whichever time zone you happen to be in. I'm excited to be able to introduce to everyone today. On Twitter, it's up and away and LittyCommitte. And so would you like to introduce yourself? And you know the format. This is all about everyone getting to know who you are and how you got into crypto and where you feel like we are now and where you feel like we're going.
Man, okay, that's a broad spectrum, but I guess I can start by telling you the story about how I got into crypto. So I used to be a firefighter and a paramedic for the last, well, I would say from 2008 until 2015, 2016. I was full-time doing that. And then I kind of took a leap of faith and went into medical device sales. And then I moved on to like what I do now with like construction sales and foundations and that sort of stuff. And when I started working at my place of employment now, a couple of years ago, I had met a gentleman who shared similar interests with me. He liked to make music. He was on American Idol, and we just kind of clicked at work. And he told me one day, like, hey, I made $500,000 in an afternoon. And I mean, when somebody says something like that to me, my ears kind of perk up.
Hello.
So I said, all right, well, now you have my full undivided attention. Please continue talking about it. And he just kind of told me his story. And he's a little bit older than I am. But I was fascinated. And I'm the type of person where I'm a nerd. Like, I want to dive into the technology. You know what I mean? Like, if it's truly revolutionary, like we think it is, that's something that I was fascinated by. So I dove headfirst into it. I haven't looked back for a year and a half. I'm blessed to be able to provide nice things for my family and put some money aside. And I've just made the decision for the last year and a half to basically take every red cent that I had and pour it into crypto. So in XRP specifically. And I do believe what? I'm not sure. You might want to ask him. I'm sorry, Scott. My mom was looking for something. She was visiting. But I kind of dove headfirst into it, and I haven't looked back. And like we were talking about before we went live, it's led me on such a journey, and I found personally who I am, and I have a better relationship with God because of it. As crazy as that might sound, it's truly, like you said, it's like a great awakening. And just to be living in this time of human history is just, like I said, I'm grateful. It's a blessing. And I hope we can all get together and start to do good for everyone.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's amazing.
And I like the guys I think is it in Sweden where they have that super collider thing?
The Hadron Collider?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure where it's at.
Well, they broke it all down and they found the smallest, thing that they could identify, and they ended up calling it the God particle.
Right.
And then all we are is is an accumulation of God particles all bundled together with consciousness. I mean, it's the most fascinating time to be alive. Now, I'm a little bit older than you, old enough to be your dad, I guess. And I'm doing the best I can to remain extraordinarily immature, though. We've got this great internet thing now where we can, Google anything we want to find out about, and Wikipedia is great.
Hey, I remember it wasn't, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago when you would flip on your TV and the Jetsons would be on TV and they'd be talking to each other with a TV monitor and video chat, and we all thought that was just crazy. And now and then we got cordless phones.
Yeah. And Star Trek Star Trek was always kind of ahead of the game that way. But when I grew up, the only thing that I had was this thing called a Magic 8 Ball. And I don't know if you've ever even seen one of those, but you ask it a question and then you hold it for a second and it gives you an answer. That's what I had. Now we've got the internet, so you can imagine what a kid in the candy store I feel like. So
Right.
you were always kind of techie and curious growing up. And so when you began to look into crypto, what was like your first impression when your friend said he made $500,000 in an afternoon? How did you unpack all that?
I was kind of blown away. And then I was like, okay, how is my time going to be best spent? Because when I had kids, I have a 3-year-old who's going to be 4 in September, and I have a 1-year-old who'll be 1.5 on my 4-year-old's birthday. So they're exactly 2.5 years apart. Geez, you know how old my kids are, but they're 2.5 years apart to the day. But it's like when you have kids, I don't know if you have kids or not, but like my perspective on life completely 180. So I'm like, all right, it's not even about me anymore. You know, it's like, it's about these guys. And that I've been searching since I even learned that I was going to be a father for a solution to how do I get it to where my kids don't have to do this? How do I get it to my kids aren't chasing that piece of cheese through the rat race, you know? So that's how my mind kind of went down that path. And when I heard him say that, I said, okay, this is now worth more of my time than pretty much any for the foreseeable next at least little while. I'm going to dedicate and allocate time to this. And I started out by watching, I think the first person I ever watched on YouTube was the Digital Asset Investor. And I'm listening to the first minute of this guy's video and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Cinnamon in his coffee and all, like just talking about his kids and stuff. And I'm like, all right, this guy sounds like me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'll listen to what he has to say. And I've watched almost every single one of his videos. I've watched The Bearable Bull, Sam I Am. Like I watch all these guys and then I go and take it a step further and understand how the technology actually works. So that's kind of where I put my money, and I don't mind putting my money where my mouth is either. So,
well, now, how do you feel since you kind of opened that door? How do you feel about the way that Bitcoin was all based on proof of work and Ethereum, and now Ethereum 2.0 seems to be moving away from that? And do you feel like that proof of work is ever going to work, or do you think they've got to do something with that?
I would say there was a video, and I want to say it was Ashish Burla, but I can't remember exactly off the top. It was a Ripple employee, and they were at a blockchain conference, and there was a Bitcoin maxi on stage, and it was the Ripple employee's turn to speak, and he stood up, and the first thing he said was, "Proof of work doesn't work." And to just say that, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, dude, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, I read body language for a living. I'm in sales. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be receptive to that kind of stuff. And when I watch these videos of these Ripple guys talking about XRP, it's like they're walking around the locker room with their towel off on purpose, if you get what I'm saying. You know, like
Yep.
they're at Davos, Switzerland. Brad Garlinghouse is at Davos, Switzerland with the top, 40,000 billionaires or something in the world. Like the top 0.2% of the 1% meet every year. And he's the only person from the crypto space there. I mean, come on. That's the way I look at
it. Well, when you first discovered XRP, and I'm like you, the YouTubers are what really kind of got me into it and educated me. I'll never be able to thank, Bearable Bull and Kevin Cage and Jungle Inc.
Oh, Kevin Cage, yeah.
And I really like King Solomon. I didn't know him as well, till recently, but I love his videos.
I always heard him on Digital Asset Investors page. He would say, King Solomon sent me this. So when I got like back active in the Twitter and like into the XRP community on Twitter, he was like one of the first people I followed. But I'm so happy and so grateful that he is back on YouTube and doing videos again. Oh my! You know who else I wish would come back is SPQR Media. Those guys were awesome too.
Yeah, but I'm pretty good friends with Jay and with Lee, and working to try to get an interview with Andy, and have also interviewed Cody, and they're still hanging around. They're just not quite doing quite as much. But yeah. I'm hoping if something big comes up, I feel like that Lee would probably be up for a deep dive. And one of my favorite videos that is of all time in any subject was the truth video, the last one that they did. Did you see that one?
Yeah. They talk a lot about taking people to the edge.
Yep.
It's like, they definitely opened some doors for me. So
yeah, for me too.
Hats off to those guys, man.
So when I first saw it, I think like most everybody, I'm a libertarian. That's not like most everybody, but I had concerns about it being the banker coin. Did you have any kind of concerns at all that we're not coming from an anarchist point of view, we're down with the man and we're just going to have a revolution here?
The way I see that is humans have been around for a little while, like longer than we can kind of even conceptualize that amount of time. So, and I would say probably since the dawn of man, there has been humans who are more intelligent than others and are able to manipulate others and are able to force an agenda without saying what they need to say. With that being said, those powers to be have been in place for a long time. And they know they've perfected the game. And it's just one of those things where when I first heard about it, I was more attracted to it because it was a banker's coin. I said, okay, like if this is going to make them money, I'm going to ride their coattails and get rich by accident. If I'm not supposed to have this, because what I believe XRP is, I believe it is for banks and governments. And if they reset the world debt, or if they do a jubilee where, instead of having 300,000 U.S. Treasury notes, it's 30,000. So now your mortgage is only 30,000, government notes or whatever you want to call them now. And they're all backed by gold, which is transported around the world by XRP. So if they do a price set to $2,000 and force everyone to sell their XRP to the IMF for the special drawing rights, and then once they have all the XRP, they pump it to $10,000. Am I going to get mad about that? I might be a little salty, but I'll take my $500 million and go fuck off somewhere. Pardon my language, and buy an island.
That's okay. Little F bomb. Nothing wrong with little F bomb. Yeah. So do you think then that it might be a possibility that Judy Shelton gets approved, we peg the gold, and then they go to the IMF and use up that escrow and allocate it out to the countries that are begging the IMF to bail them out right now?
I think anything's possible. But I just, like I said, when I pay attention to something, whether it be a new video game that comes out, or martial arts, for example, or anything that I decide to focus my attention to, it's almost like my mind is hyper focused on just that. So I've been hyper focused on XRP for the last year now. And yeah, I do. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I just don't, unless it is just one big scam and we're all like, dang, we rolled the dice, we went for it, but it just didn't work out or whatever. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that they release a virus that's highly infectious, that is there to basically scare people, and then they're not going to use that and then not introduce something new. Just like 9/11, just like Pearl Harbor, just like, you name it. Like any basically historical event, there has been in the background a hidden hand that is chipping away at rights, because it's my personal belief that there's one piece of paper that stands between freedom and one world government, and that's our Constitution. So
and having said that, with the hash rate of Bitcoin more in China than anywhere else, do you believe that Trump and any of the people that are with him are ever going to give it the rubber stamp to Bitcoin, as long as that hash rate is more mined in China than anywhere else?
I would say this. What I want to believe is no. I think that they would regulate it out of existence if that ever happened. But what I lean toward, because I know everybody says Black Lives Matter and then everybody else says all lives matter, but in reality, no lives matter to the government. Okay, they don't care about any of us. So the view is, I think it's basically a big show. All these trade talks, trade deals, the now we're off, now we're on, hot and cold with China and President Trump. I think it's just one big show. I think they're all puppets, and maybe they do regulate Bitcoin out of existence, maybe they don't, but I think it's all just one big show, and we're supposed to, like, folks like you and I who've dabbled in this and been introduced into this, like they always say, just sit back and enjoy the show, to the initiated, I suppose. I don't know. But
well, how much on a time frame? Remember last year, and I believe it was around October, Brad Garlinghouse said that we were in a marathon. He said he felt like we were in about mile 3. How far along do you think, and do you think that the pandemic helped move that forward?
I do. I think it is the cover for it. It's a convenient excuse. Today I tried to pay for my lunch on my lunch break with a $10 bill, and they wouldn't take it. That was at a Wendy's, so it was too dirty. So I had to use my phone and use Apple Pay to pay for my lunch. So there was no contact. So,
and what exactly did they give you the reason?
They basically, cash is dirty. They're not having any unnecessary contact between people. Yeah.
I heard a great live stream last night. Sam I Am invited some of the other influencers on a live stream last night, and BC Backer was one of the ones that was on there, and he likes to go out and collect coins from banks and then look for silver. And he said that they're stopping giving coins out at the banks now too.
Yeah. Coins are dirty. They have coronavirus. Oh, it's just like I said, I've been watching this, and I tell people like that I know, I'm like, look, I've known about coronavirus since last September when it came out of Wuhan. I've been tracking it because I'm into like I said, I'm into crypto. I follow Bitcoin. It's mined in China. You have to pay attention to these things and the way that they move. So you can kind of see some of it coming from far off. And when I tell people that I know about that, who just work 9 to 5s, and they go and they clock in and they can't wait till 5 o'clock to get home and be with their family, you tell them stuff like that and it challenges their entire belief system. They just go, that guy's a crazy ass conspiracy theorist. And I'm just like, well, I can lead you to the lake, but I can't make you drink. And I'm not going to hold your head underwater.
Correct. Well, what do you feel like is the thing that is holding us back? Do you think that it's regulatory clarity in America right now?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I like going back to what you just said about Brad Garlinghouse and us being on mile 3 last year. It just reminds me of the tweet that David Schwartz sent out talking about how 2021 is too late for the plans that they have for XRP. So if Codius really isn't dead, and that's been being worked on in the background, and we're partnered with Ethereum, I don't see how in 10 years from now we're not done with the marathon. That's kind of my investment strategy. So like I said, but I invest differently than maybe a 22-year-old or someone your age, because I have kids and they're young and I'm going all in. So it's just one of those things where I'm blessed enough to be able to risk it. So, but I think, yeah, in 10 years that, when you purchase anything, I think it's going to be 100% different than the way things work now. Like, for example, if I wanted to sell my house to you right now, we would have to go find a mortgage broker, sit down, do the paperwork, sign it over. It would take God knows how long for the money to go through and for you to get your keys and be able to move in. Where with XRP, if we're transacting on the ledger with smart contracts, you send me $300,000 worth of XRP, it creates a smart contract with your name and my name, and now we have a cryptographic permanent record that you purchased my home from me, and a smart contract from, whatever, say Ethereum or Codius or whoever's going to use it, and boom, you now own this house immediately. So I think that's kind of where we're headed.
I'm really looking forward to being able to have assets tokenized, where you can be in where you're living now. I can be in North Carolina. We can find a investment property that we'd like to go in together on, and we can just go buy part of it right from where we're at. And yeah, it's the most shocking. It's so difficult to be able to kind of catapult ourselves up into the future and see what it could be like, and then come back here and look at these things and recognize, like with these cameras on the phones. Can you see, we got, there we go. We got these phones and we take a picture. And for me, when I was a kid growing up, I knew what it was like to have a camera, and then you had to take a picture and then take the film out and send it somewhere
to be able to get it didn't get exposed to light.
Right, yeah, exactly. But and now looking back on it, I can understand why a 14, 15-year-old kid with their cell phone could look at it and have a hard time grasping that that's what we used to have to do in order to get a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
And understanding that 10 years from now, we're going to look back on it, and we will, I believe, by that time, be moving money and value just like we do data. And then to look at that and recognize that at some point we didn't have it that way, I think is going to be something we look back on and laugh at.
Yeah, like my grandkids, they'll be like, "What do you mean what do you mean it was faster to put money in a bag and drive it to Mexico than it was to send it? That doesn't make any sense." Not only is it faster, it's safer too.
And the money's not dirty. Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel like that SWIFT is going to get bypassed, or do you think that they're going to adapt and be a part of the game? Because
that's an awesome question.
They're still trying to hang on to that GBI system they got, right? Instead of just, let's use the new stuff.
Well, I don't know if everybody thinks the way I do, but I just think in terms of, like I said, there's been a game being played since the dawn of mankind, and there's some people that play it better than others. And the people who have mastered it, they mastered it a long time ago, and that's why they are where they are, and that's why things are the way they are in this world. But I think that basically them getting rich and being able to facilitate that is, it's something that is bound to happen. And once we get into like the artificial intelligence conversation or quantum financial conversation, where, like you said, technology's been moving what we thought was at a pretty quick pace, but now that we're here, it seems like it's going to just keep moving faster and exponential growth and that sort of stuff. So as things start to move faster, who knows? Who knows? We could be at warp speed. We could be physically visiting the moon as tourists in the next 20 or 30 years, the way that technology is advancing now. So yeah, I agree. I think in maybe even shorter, maybe even my kids, since they don't understand how it works now, they might have a hard time, and they're already alive. So yeah, I do think that is definitely something that's going to happen, and faster and faster. Like, for example, my father tells me all the time, when I was in 4th grade, they taught us something out of we looked it up in an encyclopedia and you did a report on it. And then in 5th grade, you did the same thing because you had to keep, that's how we learned. You had to keep doing it. And he's like, now you can just pick up your phone and type in anything and learn anything you want to learn now. They got videos showing you how to do it. And he's blown away by that. So yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, we're living in a time that, man, it's great to be alive right now.
So do you think that that Swift is going to get into the game, or do you think that they're going to be bypassed?
So as far as Swift is concerned, I think that it's going to come down to a choice for the central banks. So I don't think Ripple succeeds by coming in here and saying, look, we're better than you, we're faster than you, and we're going to take on the establishment. That the establishment they'll just regulate us out of existence because they don't care. They'll just find the next one, right? So with that, I think we make it a choice with them, with the banks. We give the front end users, like people like you and I, we let the market decide. I think Ripple, they have they got their cake, right? They're just waiting to eat it. So I think Swift is going to be presented a choice once things start rolling and people are able to choose what they want to use versus being forced to use what they have to use. And once that choice is made, Swift can either become the next blockbuster or they can adapt and get their fair share and play on the level playing field like everybody else.
Well, how exciting is it to you that we could be potentially here watching all of the unbanked come into the economic system? And I mean, to me, it's just and the other parts of the internet of value coming together is just remarkable.
I'm so glad you just said internet of value, because I go back to that clip with that Ripple employee where they're saying, what's Ripple's market share? And he says all of the money. That's not even correct. That's not even right. If you break down what the tech is heading toward, it's all of the everything. It's not even the money. It's all of everything. Like you said, we're heading toward tokenization of music equipment. I'm going to be able to send a micro loan of $40 worth of XRP to a lady in Thailand to democratize her so she doesn't have to work for a sweatshop for a bowl of rice every day to feed her family. Now she can be have a more financially stable ground to stand on, and that's all because of technology. So yeah, it's all of the everything, man. Not even all of the money. So okay, yeah, what does XRP have to be worth for all of the money? Okay, now what does XRP have to be worth for all of the everything in the world? Every single asset, commodity, house, real estate, you name it. Every single thing that exists that has value can be transacted on the XRPL. So an interledger protocol ties it all together, and Codius has smart contracts. So it's all of the everything. It's not all of the money. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, Brad, I'm glad you mentioned all of that because yesterday in one of Brad Kimes' videos, I think it was yesterday, he was saying, hey, if they don't like it, they're just going to regulate you on out of here. So it doesn't make any difference if they like it or don't like it. And Bitcoin could be gone because they don't like the protocol.
Yeah. Or they could just say, well, you know, the NSA did independent research, and now we've proved that China released the coronavirus on purpose. We're banning everything from China. See you, Bitcoin. Like, dang. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think that'd be bad in general for the crypto space. I think we'd see a little dark times for a little while, but inevitably we'd come out on top. But yeah, that would be wild if something like that happened.
Well, I don't have any maxi attitude in me basically about really anything. I just don't think like that. I mean, I like to be open, honest, open, and willing to investigate things. I heard a quote. I'll lay it on you and see what you think about it. I think you're going to like. I think you agree with it. But there was this guy named Herbert Spencer. Now, for anybody that wants to do your own research, yes, there's a controversy about whether or not he is actually the one who said this or not. But let's say he did. There is a principle, bar none, which is proof against all arguments, which is bound to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. And that principle is contempt prior to investigation.
Like a preconceived bias. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every man is defined by the choices he makes and his failures. I don't care about your wins. Everybody wants to be your friend when you're on top, but you're defined by how you respond to your failures. So if you're not willing to come to the table with an open mind, and I can say this with confidence, before I had kids, if someone would have told me I made $500,000 in an afternoon, I probably would have been like, whatever, man. I probably would have hated on them. You know what I mean? But now that my perspective has changed, I approach everything with an open mind, and it's the only way to approach anything. You can't even begin to formulate your own opinion or thought if you don't. So yeah, I think you and I are on the same page as far as how we research and how we go about our viewpoint on life.
And then after I was working with that for a while, I also discovered very disturbingly that there was a second part to that, which is acceptance prior to investigation. And what I found is that, from 0 to 4 years old, there's a lot of things that we accept before we have any critical thinking skills. And I had to go back and look at things. And so now my kind of way to go about doing life is questioning everything.
Yeah.
What I had accepted previously and investigate it, and then look into with an open mind anything new that comes up now.
Man, it's refreshing to hear that, because I know too many people. I would say in the clique of people that I hang out with outside of my work, I'm probably the oldest. But my fiance, my girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, my live-in baby mama, she's younger than me. She has family that's younger than her, so everybody kind of looks up to me, and it's one of those things. Yeah, perspective is it's an MFer. So if you don't have it, it's a weakness, and if you have it, it's a tool. It's a strong tool. So,
well, with your background as an EMT, what are you feeling about what's going on right now with our beer cold? Do you think that we're getting on the other side of it? Because it seems to me like the cases, and I don't know whether it's because we're doing more testing, and so it's more accurate that we know how many people have it, or it's actually increasing because a lot of young people are going out to bars and they're all infecting each other. But how do you feel about what's going on with our lovable beer cold?
Well, I think that the narrative that's being written is contradictory to itself. So last year, the CDC released a report on airborne droplet inhalation of viruses in general, and the influenza virus in particular. But viruses, they transmit the same generally. And they came out and they basically what they found in the study last year before all this craziness happened was washing your hands is basically negligible. It does nothing, but it costs you virtually nothing to do it. So it's best to practice safe practice. Covering your mouth when you cough or sneeze or putting it into your shirt or your elbow is basically negligible as well. And it's best practice because, again, it costs you nothing to do it. And then they said wearing a mask, basically, same thing. It isn't going to protect you. It isn't going to keep you from spreading it. Just simply because of the way that viruses are transmitted, it doesn't make any sense to wear a mask because you actually increase your exposure to it as we're prone to touching our face with our hands and moving things around. If any droplet were to land on there, you're going to touch it and rub your eye or bite your fingernails or pick your nose or feed yourself or something. And you're going to actually be at an increased risk of catching whatever virus you're trying to avoid in the first place. That they taught me that in paramedic school. We use one-use masks. We don't wear the same mask over and over and over like everybody out there does. I mean, they're selling masks with designs on them now. So, I mean, to go from that study, not even 12 months ago, to now everybody's in a frenzy to wear a mask and do this and do that. To me, it just feels more like compliance versus actual prevention. So, but what I want to believe as far as where we're at in the timeline is that things are going to just slowly start to get back to normal, and we're going to have to play by some rules that we didn't play by before. And then everybody kind of forgets about this in 10 years. But the experience side of me and the side of me that's seen how shitty human beings can be to other human beings, being a paramedic, that side of me makes me believe that we're probably going to see more people die from this. So I don't know. I hope not, but I don't put it past them.
Do you feel like they're going to come up with a vaccine that's going to help us, or do you feel like that we're going to develop the herd immunity first?
I think we kind of already have the herd immunity, because if you look at the mortality rate, it's less than 0.5%, and the people that 0.5% are perishing from this disease, they're either young folks who have a laundry list of pre-existing conditions, or they're older folks who are on the 17th green and they're about to tee off on the 18th hole, and it's like your immune system's weaker at that. You're sweaty and tired from playing golf all day,
Yeah,
so
I got you.
So of that 0.5%, how many of those people are young, healthy people under the age of 60? And if that makes up the gigantic chunk of who's out and about and who's a member of society and who's running businesses and who's shopping at those businesses, I just don't see the need to spaz out about it. I mean, we have over 500,000 people die from the flu every year. We have over 600, 700, 800,000 people die from cardiac disease every year. Where you don't have a treadmill on every street corner. I just don't understand. No, instead we have quite the opposite. We have a Starbucks. There, you can find any Starbucks in a half-a-mile radius of anywhere nowadays. So, but again, with the mindset of the way we approach things, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole and see how connected everything really is. Like, all the medical institutes that we have. I was taught as a paramedic to use drugs and to help people and have life-saving intervention. But when reality comes in, we probably should have just been teaching these people maybe 15 or 20 years ago how to make a better, healthier choice rather than just rely on medicine. So I think we're all just hamsters on a wheel to them, and we are a means to an end for them, for whatever that means. And wherever we're going as a species, you and I, we're just the ones who keep everything moving.
So I'm also a person that believes that we would all be better off with a more healthy lifestyle than to deal with the reactionary medicine model. And again, maybe part of all of that, is going to be coming at the end of this when we get to the other side of it all.
I hope so. I hope that some of the things that I read on Twitter are accurate. I take some of it with a grain of salt. Obviously, you have to. But when they say like Donald Trump's uncle John was friends with Nikola Tesla and he went through his papers after he died and told them that he basically found nothing. I mean, if you buy that, man, I have some gorgeous beachfront property in Idaho I can sell you.
I've always heard that the greatest prices for oceanfront views were in Oklahoma.
Yeah. The best.
Yeah. Well, if XRP mooned next week, I don't know, let's say it went to $1,000. What do you feel like that would mean for you and your family, and the people that you would be able to influence at that point?
That's a great question. The gentleman that that got me into crypto, basically the guy that I work with, we talk about that frequently. Actually, we talk every day on the phone, at least once a day, and we just want to be able to be creative, first of all and foremost, because I'm a musician as well. So I want to be creative. I want to create things, but that's kind of my end goal with everything. That's for me, But on the way there, we want to be able to set up foundations that are hopefully utilizing the XRP ledger to do good, like bring fresh water to every human being on the planet. That's something that will I reach that goal? Maybe not, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to do as much good for as many people as I can on this planet before I'm gone. I live my life by one thing and one saying, and I firmly believe that people will remember you for how you made them feel. And that's how I live my life. So yeah, I if it moons next week, I'm foot on the gas, living life and doing good. That's the next 30, 40 years for me.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, since I've been able to be very fortunate to interview a growing number of people in the community, how common it seems that giver mentality and concern and service for others is a part. Maybe that's part of the early adopter attitude that had us be open-minded to looking at this in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. And also going back to how everything's connected, I think that the majority of people either found this through like the last election cycle, or were basically introduced to the other side of the coin through crypto. So I think it kind of goes both ways. And I think the people that are in both of those communities are hardworking people who are fed up with basically breaking their back as a plumber, breaking their knees and their shoulders and their elbows as a plumber, working their whole life, 25, 30 years, just to watch their 401k dwindle down, and then be told that they have some sort of privilege that somebody else doesn't have. it just, I don't know. I just, the people in this community are hardworking. They mean well, and they want the truth, and they want us to have 1,000 years of prosperity. That's what I see when I look in this community, and I've been embraced with nothing but kind words, love, and appreciation. So I've had nothing but good things to say.
Me too, and I think in order for I would like to be able to meet 40 or 50 or 100 XRP Army members that I can connect with, and then after the moon, if we stay connected with each other, I believe we could be a very strong movement for good. Because if you've got 100 like-minded individuals who are well capitalized, and then they decided that on the good projects that they wanted to make an impact with.
That's why we got to be careful, though. That's why they sunk the Titanic, you know.
Yeah. True. But that's one of the visions, one of the dreams that I have, is being able to connect with other people that are of like mind, and be able to find some things that we can do to impact the lives of other people together. So
yeah, collaborate.
If you think about it, look what fame and fortune and money did to Elvis, and what it did to Michael Jackson. It's not good.
No.
We got to have something that gets us up every day, and that we're focused on doing.
I would say, though, with regards to Michael Jackson and Elvis, that the more I dive into the other side of what crypto is, like I said, the political, geopolitical sphere, if I'm being honest with myself, if all of this conspiracy stuff turns out to be true with QAnon and the child molestation and the pedophile elite rings and all this, that, and the other, what's to say Elvis wasn't sold into that, or Michael Jackson wasn't sold into that? And who knows what that does to the psyche of a child, So if Hollywood really is the CIA and they are evil, and it is, Nazi Germany scientists who came over here after World War II, I don't know if I buy into all that, but I definitely keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. So it just, who knows with if they were sold into that, or sold their soul to the devil and made a deal to be rich and famous, and it ate them up inside. I don't know. They know, and their maker knows. But I think what do
you feel like that the odds that Ghislaine will get suicided?
Man, there's just so much to unpack there. I think Epstein could still be alive. You know what I mean?
That too.
He may still be alive, and I don't know if that is good or bad. So, what if he's still alive and it was just a ploy to get him free? Or what if he's still alive and he's in protective custody, and they do have everything, right? So I don't know, man.
Or what if he is dead, and Ghislaine has videos and CDs of people doing bad things, and it all gets out there. I mean, because that she's gonna, in the position that she's in, she supposedly has some pretty strong leverage to cut a pretty good deal for herself.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just happy to have my popcorn and sit here and be able to enjoy the show. So I'm excited. I'm excited because a couple months ago, 6, 7, 8 months ago, maybe it was a year ago, I don't remember, but I saw a video with Donald Trump. And full disclosure, guys, I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter or anything like that, but I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm like you. I'm an independent. I look at it both sides. My kids are mixed. My girl's African American. So I see both sides of the coin when it comes to our social issues in this country right now, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But when I saw the video of Donald Trump with like all the heads of generals of military branches, and they were in I don't know if it was Independence Hall or where they were. And Donald Trump said, "You see all this?" He said, "This is the calm before the storm." And when I saw that video, and then he just walked off. When I saw that video, I said, this guy's about to do something. Like I could tell just from his body language, something big's about to happen. And then they didn't disappoint. So I gotta say, 2020's been. I don't want to sound self-centered, but it hasn't affected me or mine in any way whatsoever. To be honest, it's probably put more money into my pocket, but I know that there's people out there suffering and dying, so I don't wish that on anyone. But like you said, at the end of the day, our biggest reach and impact is going to be getting the money and the capital, and then we can focus on everybody else. So.
Well, again, I've mentioned to you before, I'm a libertarian, and the main thing that I focus on is number one, if Trump is our president, then he's got my support. If Obama was president, or if Joe Biden becomes president, well, I like everything that he stands for and everything he talks about and everything that he repeats, even when he doesn't repeat it. Well,
or remember what he's trying to say.
Yeah, remember what he said. No. But if he's the guy, then I'm going to, as an American, I'm going to fall in line and I'm going to support the guy. And
you
I'm
don't
going to
have a choice.
Right, exactly. All right. But having said that, when I look at our two-party system and then I look at the USA debt clock, $147 trillion in unfunded liability. I still can't wrap my head around that any better than I can the derivative market on the high end being $1.2 quadrillion. I mean, I just can't wrap my head around those numbers. So the Democrats and the Republicans together created our unfunded liability. So they both did it together. So
yeah, it's like two feathers on the same bird.
Right. So again, I'm neutral. I'm in the middle. I'm a libertarian. Nobody that I'm ever going to vote for is going to be able to have enough juice to be able to get elected, but I'm in the middle. And that's just how I'm going to stay.
That's the cool thing about this technology, though, is it's going to force everything, just like the internet did, to become a little more open and decentralized. So, like you said, more people are going to be able to participate. That's going to open up more people to the democratic process. And hopefully one day, we're not saying my vote is going to go towards someone who doesn't have that much juice. Hopefully we have resources and capital one day to where, okay, maybe we do have a third party now. And maybe we are taking a couple seats in Congress, and then maybe we are getting a couple Senate seats. And all right, maybe we do get a SCOTUS seat here and there, So I think that this technology and politics, it's all intertwined and intermeshed, and all the players are there. All the pieces on the chessboard are there. And I think that with DLT and XRP and specifically, I think that it runs the algorithm the fastest, and that's what it boils down to. So we're here. Like we're getting rich in slow motion, man.
I think that's a good note to end on. And I wanted to do with you what I do with every person that I invite to get a chance to speak with. I'd like to offer you an open invitation to come back later on, and then we can have a little bit of contrast. Hey, the first time that we got together was July 11th. Well, what's happened now? Are we any closer? Have we moved another mile in that marathon toward this finish line? And I want to make sure that I thank you sincerely. And again, I'm just amazed when I get the opportunity to meet people a little bit more in depth in the community. It just seems like that we're like-minded, open, and good-hearted people. And so I'm glad that I can add you to the list as another new friend in that community.
Me as well. I'm fully open to coming back on. This was a blast. I had so much fun. And I would leave on this note that the late, great Nipsey Hussle, he said, I'll invest, double up, and then show you how I got it done. It's got to be love. So when you're out there and you're trying to educate maybe someone who's not as fortunate as you or isn't awake yet, we got to wear gloves, guys. So don't be out there calling people morons or idiots or, insulting. Try to come from a place of love and try to educate. It's the only chance we got. We need each other. So
I love that. I put a video out today on Twitter, and the moral of the story was that we all need each other. So I think that's a beautiful, apropos way for us to wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Scott.
Look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Yes, sir.